Hello and welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Open Series featuring the Invitational in Indianapolis, Indiana. My name is Ruben Bressler and I am joined by recent Grand Prix Louisville champion.
That doesn't Ruben Bressler.
Yeah, you don't get tired of hearing that you're a Grand Prix champion, right?
Yeah, I don't think I will ever get tired of that.
It's pretty, I mean, for the foreseeable future until you win a Pro Tour, you'll always be Grand Prix champion.
You know, maybe if I win a Pro Tour then someone's like, hey man, aren't you the game day champion?
Yeah,
and I'll be like, well, yeah.
Of course, it's Braun-Duin. And today you're playing a deck in Standard that you've done fairly well with in recent week. And that would be MonoBlack Devotion, sort of mid-range control. Talk to me a little bit about why the deck is so powerful, why you were able to win with it last week, and why you're still playing with it this week.
Yeah, so basically the deck is just really well positioned against any of the control or other mid-rangey decks. You do a lot of the same things they do, your thought seizing, your heroes downfalling them, but you just have a much more robust endgame thanks to 4 Underworld connections and the power of Grey Merchant. A lot of those decks have cards like Obsidat or Blood Baron, some of my favorite cards personally, but Grey Merchant is kind of like an Obsidat all at once. It's kind of like 7 turns of Obsidat that just happen immediately.
There you go.
So it's pretty awesome, and a lot of the super hyper aggressive decks like 1-drop mono red, like all the 1-drop white weenie decks, are kind of a bad matchup because you don't really start doing things until like turns 2 and 3. But because of the presence of like the mono blue deck and the red green deck that just stomp those decks, it's the metagame's just like well positioned for mono black.
Absolutely, yeah, and especially at something like an Invitational or a Grand Prix, much larger tournaments where you have buys also to be able to avoid the first few rounds. The quick mono red, the white weenie are less popular at events like this.
Yeah.
So that also adds to that decision, at least a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Like at the Grand Prix, I basically with 3 buys, I was hoping that those mono red decks were just going to get knocked out before they got to me, and fortunately, like that was the case. Like I'm sure that, I definitely got a little bit lucky in like my pairings, but for the most part, I completely dodged like any of those decks.
Absolutely, and you got to get lucky to win a tournament, and you're hoping to get lucky again here this weekend.
Absolutely.
So last week, you discussed in your article about the deck that the main switch you made was away from Lifebane Zombie and into Nightveil Spectre. Is there anything that major change with the deck this week also? Because that's a pretty big change to go away from Lifebane Zombie into a whole different 3-drop creature.
No, not really. Like I guess the major change that I've made this week is away from Doomblade and into Ultimate Price and Devour Flesh. Both of those cards, actually at the Grand Prix, Doomblade was amazing for me. I played red-green like 40 times, and I played mono-blue a bunch of times. So I was very happy with Doomblade there, but I had to anticipate the change in the metagame as a result of like the dominance of the mono-black deck last week. So I think a lot of people are going to be on it, and I want ways to kill Pack Rat and Desecration Demon, and Ultimate Price is the guy for that job.
Right, it really depends on if you're more afraid of Boros Reckoner or Desecration Demon, and your deck handles a Reckoner much better, I imagine.
Yeah, as a whole. Like I still have Doomblades in my sideboard. I still think that card is exceptionally good against a lot of decks, but I wanted to hedge more for like the mirror match. Speaking
of the sideboard, what other changes have you made to the sideboard to sort of try and predict the metagame that's going to be here at the Invitational?
I haven't made a lot of changes actually. Probably the main one was I added a second Pithing Needle. That was the one thing I wanted in my deck last week, was a second Pithing Needle for like the red-green decks that have like 12 Planeswalkers. I felt the only way I could possibly lose to them is if they just stick a bunch of Planeswalkers and I can't kill them all. So I wanted more answers to those Planeswalkers and more proactive answers. So between Lifebane Zombie to kill them and like Pithing Needle to prevent them from doing stuff, I feel much better now with a second Needle.
Absolutely, yeah, and this is sort of becoming your signature deck now that you have this big Grand Prix finish, you've already written an article on it. And so I was talking with you, I guess it was earlier in the week, this is probably the first mono black deck that you've ever played, or mono colored deck that you've ever played in a major tournament. You're very averse to not dipping into a third color. Like every time I've seen you, you're playing junk or you're playing blue, white, red, or something like that.
A lot of times I'm like, should I dip into the 4th color?
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but yeah, here I actually played a lot of mono black back when I first started playing Magic and Tom Spiral, so there's a little bit of nostalgia there. So I'm kind of happy to see like a resurgence in the archetype.
In the monocolor decks, and of course that's mostly because of the devotion mechanic, which has taken the format by storm. It's one of the most dominating abilities in standard Magic in years. It's won the Pro Tour, obviously. It won the first Grand Prix. It put 2 other decks in the top 8 of both events. It's just a very powerful mechanic. Why is Devotion so good in standard?
Basically, it just lets you do, like, the kind of things you want to do when you're building a deck is you want your deck to, like, build off of itself. Like, you want, like, the earlier cards you're playing to, like, make your later cards better, and you want your later cards to, like, make your earlier cards a little bit better as well. And, like, Devotion just kind of plays into that. Like, Frostburn Weird, for example, is like a good creature against a lot of aggressive decks.
Right.
So, like, you're not, like, sad having that in your deck, but the fact that it also, like, makes your Master of Waves and your, like, Nykthoses, like, so much better means that, like, you just get a lot of added value out of cards like that. And so that basically, like, the deck, the Devotion mechanic promotes a lot of synergy, and when, like, the synergies line up, you just get a very powerful deck. So that's why that's...
Yeah, people were already playing Frostburn Weirds in sideboards just as a 1/4 for 2 mana. It's got a huge toughness for just 2 mana, and of course, Nightveil Spectre being the real breakout card of the last 2 weeks in both Mono Blue and Mono Black. So let's forget about the deck for a second. You got some more Magic to play during the rest of the year, even after this tournament. Obviously, we're looking to win every tournament we enter. But going forward, you're looking to try and get to silver this year, right?
Right. So at this point, I have 12 pro points. I have 4 from the Pro Tour and 8 from winning the Grand Prix. Silver's 20, so I just need 8 more points. Playing in Valencia gives me an automatic 3, regardless of how I do at that tournament. So at this point, I'm, like, aiming to try to get 5 pro points from Grand Prix or qualifying for, like, the next Pro Tour after Valencia or anything like that. If I can achieve that, then I'm going to look further, like maybe try to hit gold or something. But for now, I'm just, like, taking it one step at a time.
Sure, and because this is your breakout year, of course. There's no accounting for being 2015 Player of the Year or something like that, although you're off to a good start on that too, if you really want to try for it. But you're going to a lot more Grand Prix. You had a piece written about you by Brian David Marshall about Brian Braun-Duin, which is too many initials for me to deal with. BDM writing about BBD is just, I can't handle it. But he had a very nice piece about you. They don't write that about every Grand Prix winner. And so they must think that you're a rising star in the field, and I can't help but agree.
Well, I hope to prove them right. That would be excellent. This is a little off topic, but I wanted to mention it. If you love the Devotion mechanic and your name is Nicholas, I would really suggest changing your last name to Thos.
Nicholas Thos?
Yeah, Nicholas Thos. It's a classic name. Like, I haven't seen anyone with a name. Like, you're golden.
Yeah, and this deck, by the way, is rife with options for puns.
Yes, it is.
You've just got Pack Rat, which has so many puns already in it that you can just keep packing away more puns. And I hate myself for even saying that, but we're looking forward to seeing you play the deck today. What are you playing in Legacy?
I am going to be sneaking and showing.
Sneaking and showing, along with some of your other Roanoke friends here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people playing the deck, so I was trying to figure out how to break the mirror, couldn't, so hopefully I'm just draw better than other people.
Well, there you go. It worked last week. Hopefully it'll work going forward. BBD, thanks for joining me in the sideboard.
Thanks.
We'll be back here from the Invitational.